and welcome to today's video. And today we're going to be taking a look at this SLF1. Now we're not going to be restoring it because I've got a perfectly working F1 and tuner module off to one side, but I've had a rethink about my C9, and what I've decided to do is to try and persevere with the C9. So rather than go out and try and find a complete spares deck, what I've done is I've bought an F1 which internally, so I've been led to believe, shares the same deck motors as the C9. And what I think has happened with my C9 is that one of the stators probably on the supply reel has short-circuited, and that is causing the drive transistors to heat up and eventually expire. So we're going to see if the motors are the same in this one, and also see if we've got any drive circuitry in here which is also the same. Now there's a cassette stuck in the machine, and I found this unit on eBay, and I don't think when the person was selling the deck they actually checked to see what was on the cassette. You'll see why in a moment once I get this lid off. Now on these, if I remember rightly, you have, it's a weird way of getting in, they're almost like a sort of a clamshell effect, or affair rather. You've got a couple of screws on the back, you've got the standard screws on the lid to the cassette tray, and you've got the battery module here which is attached to the board using a small cable with, I think, 2 pins on it. So obviously positive and negative because it's a direct current feed. On the back you've got an RF out, you've got a, I always forget what that one is, I think that might be the power in, and that is the multi-module, or the multi-plug, which connects to either a TTF1 or one of the PCM F1 modules. You can actually get an adapter for that, which gives you composite outputs and audio outputs as well. The deck itself, unlike a C9, is mono only. But this was really designed as a portable deck rather than something you would use in and around the home, even though you could quite easily. So this literally just comes off, and sorry, it was 3 pins connecting it, but you can see the 3 pins there, so we'll just disconnect that. There we go. And now we can focus on the deck itself, and also what treats this cassette seems to hold for us. So I need to remember how to do this, but if I remember rightly, this panel on the front does actually come off, although you might need to get to it from underneath. And there are 4 screws holding the underside panel in place. And I'll be honest, I'm just going to be stripping this down for the components that I need, so I'm not too fussed if I don't put it back together. Also not too fussed if I don't put all the screws back into it. There we go. Ugh. It's seen a bit of moisture in its time. There you go, and that, it's rust in there of all things. Should come off if I prise it up. Now I'm not a total savage, so I'm going to try and keep things like these plastic front panels intact. The reason being, not only is this good spares for my C9, it's also a good spares deck for my F1. goodness knows what's been going on with that. And that means that I should be able to get this off. So I can just prise that front panel. Oops, sorry, you can't see that, but I should be able to just prise the front panel back like so. A couple of clips on there. And it's connected via ribbon cables. So there you go, literally just comes away like that. That comes off. And we expose the cassette, which has that. So whoever last used this machine forgot to remove their specialist cassette. How lovely. Ugh. Yuck. Anyway, I think we're going to have to try and manually wind this back in. There we go. So you can see it's winding back in. Just move that back so you can see what's going on. There we go. Need to actually check this upper head drum because there was a revision at some point for both the C9 and certainly the F1 where the upper head drum design was changed and there were some in-service replacements for said drum. So I'm interested to know. You just hear it peeling off of the head. Oh, lovely. There you go. God knows what's on here. Yeah. The tape's full of mould anyway, so I'm not going to save it. But there you go. Right, the bit we are interested in are these reels. They do seem to be spinning freely, which is good. The other bit I'm interested to know is if the reel drives themselves, the actual ICs, if they're the same. God, just imagine what's on that bit of cassette. Ah, lovely. Some vintage entertainment material. Right, let's find the driver board. So it could be any of these, to be honest. I would guess it's probably going to be this one underneath. Let's have a look. Back tension, capstan, drum, drum. Right, Syscon. Yeah, I think it's going to be around this particular section. One thing that we will do is we will remove this board. So I reckon, do you know, I reckon it's under there. I recognise that from the C9. That looks very familiar. I bet you they're under there. Now there's quite a few multi-connectors. This will never go back in again, I don't think, into production. It looks like it has suffered damp damage, which won't necessarily do any damage to the components that I want, but if you power it back on, it's not going to be in the happiest of states, let's put it that way. So you can see actually all of the boards are held together with these ribbon cables, which is rather neat. So you've got the board on the front held together with ribbon cable. You've got the wire connectors here for the deck itself. It's all rather neat, to be honest. So again, because I'm not a savage, I'm not cutting wires. I am literally just pulling them out of the connectors, because one, you never know what deck this is going to be useful for spares, and two, cutting them is just a bit lazy. Oh, it's got that weird... Best way to describe that smell is the seaside. And I'm not sure even decks which haven't been stored in damp conditions can smell like that. It's all to do with the composition of the circuit boards and just generally the age of them. But if they've been damp stored, they smell even more like the seaside than they do if they haven't been badly stored. There's another one there that's attached with a ribbon. So we'll just pop that off. Oh, I love that. Look at that. So basically, that comes out. That I think is either a head or audio amp. Hang on, tracking, yeah, that might be a head amp. And the reason why I was getting excited was because of the way this comes out. So there's a few little snags with the way that that's held in. There you go. And there we go, that's another screw on the front there. So flip it around, you can see the screw here, which have a little earthing point, which I just need to take off, like so. Once that's removed, there are, I think, another earthing point which is actually hard soldered on either side. So with that, I am going to have to be a little bit ruthless, but that can be resoldered if you need it to. This is either audio or head amp. Thinking about it, that might be head amp actually. That one audio, I guess. But what happens now is the deck lifts away from this little folding puzzle. How awesome is that? What fantastic packaging. Absolutely brilliant. And by just doing that, you've got yourself a far more compact machine. If you had them all laid out next to each other, you'd have a standard size machine. But with, quite frankly, this ingenious packaging, they've managed to make something half the size. Absolutely brilliant. Sony are not alone in this though. JVC with their portable series based on the 3V23, which would be the JVC 7700, if we're talking JVC and not Ferguson part numbers, produced their portable unit, which was known as the Ferguson 3V24 and 3V25, using a very similar method. Obviously it was slightly bigger to accommodate the VHS cassette, but again they would use that sort of infrastructure. Like Sony, their deck was also mono, although later ones were stereo. But I'm not sure if Sony ever made another portable Betamax after the F1, mainly due to diminishing market returns, unfortunately. I think there's some shared ICs in here. There's a few driver chips here as well. Not sure on the model or compatibility, but it's under here that I was interested in. And if I go under here and pop this cover off, which is easier said than done, because I've got a horrible feeling it might be soldered onto the other side. Let's see what we can do with it. Let's use a little flat blade. Yeah, it's soldered onto the board itself. Not the end of the world, we'll desolder that and then we'll get in there and take a look. And we will do exactly the same thing that we did last time, which is not to fully desolder it, but to basically warm up the solder enough so that it melts. And once it's melted, just prise it up. Right, let's put it on the maximum solder heat as well. But I rather like the way that's been laid out. It is rather cool. So drum is there. This I would assume is probably real control. And then over here you've got some connections for this output stage. So you've got the RF out cam, which is there, and a few other bits and pieces. Right, I'm going to pause this and wait for the iron to warm up. There we go, I think I've got the iron hot enough now, so I should be able to start melting these away. I've done this one on the end. It's this one there that's proven to be irritating. Let's try this one. Yeah, it's definitely, there we are, that's broken free. And let's do this one. Oh. Oh. And whoop. Nearly. There we are, so that's that one. So there's three which have broken free. This one's sealed itself back down again. There we go. Now this one I do want to get rid of because I want to have that off completely. There we go. So that's gone. Now I think these actually hold the top layer in as well, so I may have to solder sucker them yet. That's quite a neat job actually. And finally, well, not finally actually, this one. There we go. this one. I need to clean this tip of the soldering iron as well, as it's covered in melted plastic from the solder sucker. And I think that's that. I'll keep that handy though, because it's very likely I'll need that again in a moment. Let's see if that makes a difference to this. Not an overly massive difference, to be honest, although there is a slight difference, because it does seem less on there than before. I'm desperately trying not to crack the board itself, because I want to try and keep that intact as much as possible. Again, going back to my whole spares thing. So what I'm going to try to do is push it in from this side, and I can see part of the problem already is there. So solder sucker again. This is where the solder copper braid type stuff that you just sort of literally pull over the solder to soak it up. That's where that will come in real handy about now. Because that'll whip this off in an instant. That's nearly there though. That is very nearly there. It's definitely coming up. There you go, that's off. Excellent, it looks like we've got 4 of these like we had on the C9. In fact, have I got a board for comparison? So I'll put it back in the C9 box, you see. So I actually had the C9 on eBay, and what typically happens when stuff is on eBay is I had some other things for sale at the same time, and I was having some problems with one of the items that I was selling, and because I wasn't in a very good mood at that point, I got disenfranchised with the whole eBay selling thing, which happens to me quite a lot. And I took the C9 off of eBay and ended up keeping it. So, very similar, although these 421K 221s, 102K 231, these are different, but we've got these driver chips, there, and there. I've taken those 2 out because I used them on the other board. We've got a 194A, 2A, 194A, 2C, so they're probably different revisions. Don't know if they're backward compatible or not. but certainly these driver chips look to be the same. That is a B733 U41 Z1, B733 U no, hang on, K4 something or other, U41, these are K4, but B733. They might be compatible, they might not. Hopefully I won't burn through any more, so we won't have to find out. But it looks like we've got enough spares to hopefully repair my C9. So I'll just move that out of the way and we'll bring back the deck. So this is obviously the deck. That's the supply spool motor. And I'm going to use this to work out how to get the motors out so that I don't have to conduct the same experiment on the C9. I'm using a screwdriver that's way too big, but it seems to be kind of working. Seems to be held in with something. So I wonder if this is actually held in with more than just this bottom plate, if there's items on the top side that could be holding it in place. I think this bottom plate actually has the oh no, tell a lie. It seems to be moving slightly. There's around there, there's that, that, and that, and that's a bit of tape. Yeah, it's just that one there that's holding it in. Looks like it's rounded off at some point, so to correct that, put a little bit of pressure on it. And after applying a little bit of pressure, that's coming free now. Taking a little while, but that's coming up. And that is up. Perfect. Those are your real motors. Excellent, and that's the bit that I want. The next challenge will be to understand if this is plug-in compatible with the C9, because if it's not, then that's when things do get interesting. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. For now though, I think that's been a successful venture. That one's a bit iffy, but that's the Betamax, the actual one. Is that the one I want? Yes, that is the one I want. No, hang on a minute. No, that's the fast forward. That's the supply. Yeah. Only sounding like that because I think this brake mechanism has something to do with it. Yes, it does. Perfect. Okay. Anyway, that's that for today. I'd like to thank you very much for watching. Take care. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you again soon. Thanks for watching.